Well, hearts are heavy today as family, friends, and co-workers said their final goodbyes during the funeral service for fallen Memphis police officer Demetrice Johnson. He is now the 85th Memphis police officer to die in the line of duty after a serious car crash in his MPD cruiser nearly 2 weeks ago. Johnson's family didn't want media inside the service, but our Stephen Pempo watched the live stream that you just saw video of and joins us now. Stephen, I know it was a touching tribute to Officer Johnson. How did Memphians pay their respects?
Pepper, today's service was a mix of heartbreak and happiness. Officer Johnson leaves behind a wife and young son just months after achieving his dream of becoming a Memphis police officer. Loved ones described him as a man with an infectious smile who loved his family dearly and dedicated his life to trying to save the day. Chosen Johnson needed help to walk down the aisle as she bid farewell to her husband Demetrice Johnson, a Memphis police officer who died in a catastrophic crash in downtown Memphis less than 2 weeks ago. She still remembers what she said when he told her he wanted to join MPD.
I want you to be careful because it's so dangerous now. I said, don't have nobody knock on my door and tell me something happened to you.
Thursday's funeral at Oak Grove Missionary Baptist Church was full of the people whose lives Johnson had touched, as well as city leaders like Mayor Paul Young and Interim Police Chief C.J. Davis.
In North Main, he was known as JoJo, Smiley, DJ, and so much more.
MPD officer Jocelyn Freeman says Officer Johnson seemed to lift up the lives of everyone around him.
After losing a partner in April, I told myself, I'm not trying to get close to nobody again. But when Johnson came to the precinct, he brought a presence and a smile that we needed.
His wife, Chosen, shared a story from the aftermath of the crash that claimed Officer Johnson's life, how he was able to use his Apple Watch to call for help for his fellow officer.
Even in his last breath, he needed to serve to save somebody else's life. He was able to call for help, even if he couldn't help himself. He potentially saved his partner's life. That's honor all by itself.
Memphis Mayor Paul Young said that while he did not know Officer Johnson personally, it was clear talking to his family that he touched more lives in 34 years than most people do in 80. Pepper.
Thank you, Stephen. And then shortly after the funeral, Officer Johnson was laid to rest at Memorial Park Cemetery in East Memphis in a private burial. Our Scott Mattis was outside Memorial Park and spoke to people who showed up to pay their respects. Scott, what did they tell you about Officer Johnson's life and legacy?
They're heartbroken. Absolute devastation, to be honest with you. You know, Stephen had a great report. A lot of people in Memphis thinking and feeling the same way. Now, the funeral held at Oak Grove Missionary Baptist Church lasted more than 3 hours before Officer Johnson's body was then brought to Memorial Park shortly before 3 o'clock this afternoon. Now, as the sea of those mourning made their way down Poplar Avenue to Memorial Park Cemetery, hearts remain heavy as friends, family, and co-workers remember Demetrice Johnson. Now, Officer Johnson, who graduated from the Memphis Police Training Academy in March, was assigned to the North Main Precinct. Though he had only been there for a few short months, those who had never even met Johnson paid their respects and joined in the city's sadness. One pastor I caught up with said Officer Johnson's dedication and commitment left a strong impression on those he worked with and the city of Memphis.
My heart goes out to this family and the loss of a loved one, a fallen officer that represents this city, that's out fighting for crime, and also he's a family man, and first and foremost that he's a family man and that his family is suffering now.
Again, Officer Johnson leaves behind a wife and a 2-year-old son. Live in studio, I'm Scott Mattis.
We're certainly keeping them in our thoughts, Scott. Thank you.